Was it enough? What did you make of it? President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced the following in response to the issues that were raised by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi last week. He has announced a commission of inquiry. He's announced a new Minister of Police who's going to take his job at the beginning of August. What are we going to call this Sunday? Because Mkhwanazi gave us Miasma Sunday. He gave us Fiasco Sunday. Mkhwanazi launched a rocket into the public, one which was really shocking, but also affirming what everybody already suspected about some of the dealings between high-level police officers, high-level politicians, as well as criminal syndicates and gangs who are operating in the trading of arms, in the trading of drugs and narcotics. And so his announcement was explosive in that it was also unprecedented. Where do we place what President Cyril Ramaphosa announced today? What type of a Sunday was it? What are we going to call it? The real question that I think everyone is asking and will be asking is, was this enough? Was it enough? Is it enough? And one of the ways about thinking about sufficiency and adequacy is this. Will this make any gang leaders in South Africa nervous? Will anything said here lead to the Hosh Curry fathers panicking, booking flights, shutting down their businesses? Is there anybody right now who's on Fly Safari trying to see what can be done, who's on Delta Airlines trying to get out of the country quickly because they think they'll be apprehended? You know, whenever there's a scandal in America, you know, like with Diddy and some of the rappers who've been implicated, they're always checking the flights, the bookings to see, is anybody leaving? Because they understand that once a certain shoe drops, once there's a significant level of action, those people are going to face the full might of the law. And they do. They do. When there's an announcement that a certain gang leader is involved in tax evasion or anything to that effect, you understand that this Pablo Escobar character is going down. And you've seen those type of consequences. So in this instance, in this moment, was this something that would have led to anybody who's getting tenders, who's doing so illegally, who's participating in gang activities, being nervous? Or are they still going to be collecting money to buy soccer teams? I don't know. What do you think? Another way of evaluating the response, I think, in terms of adequacy or sufficiency, is thinking about whether the public will be safer tomorrow morning, this coming week, this coming month. Will any of this change what was announced? So let's go to the Commission of Inquiry first. This is what President Ramaphosa had to say. In brief, I cut it down in case you missed the press conference or you're looking for a summary. Here is what he announced.
To address these allegations and the implications of these allegations, I'm establishing a Judicial Commission of Inquiry that will be chaired by Acting Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyisile Madlanga. Justice Madlanga will be assisted by Advocate Sesi Baloyi, Senior Counsel, and Advocate Sandile Khumalo, Senior Counsel. The Commission will investigate allegations relating to the infiltration of law enforcement, intelligence, and associated institutions within the criminal justice system by criminal syndicates. The Commission will be asked to report on the effectiveness of failures of oversight mechanisms and the adequacy of current legislation, policies, and institutional arrangements in preventing such infiltration. It will make findings and recommendations for criminal prosecutions, disciplinary actions, and institutional reform. Once established, the Commission shall consider prima facie evidence relating to the involvement of individuals who are currently employed within law enforcement or intelligence agencies. Where appropriate, the Commission must make recommendations on the employment status of such officials currently employed, including whether they should be suspended pending the outcome of further investigations. The Commission will have the power to refer matters for immediate investigation and urgent decisions on prosecution, taking into account the nature of the allegations and the evidence the Commission will uncover. It is critical that these matters be attended to with the necessary urgency and thoroughness. The Commission is expected to complete its work and submit a final report to the President. Interim reports will be expected after 3 months and 6 months, respectively. The final report of the Commission will be sent to the Speaker of the National Assembly and to the Chief Justice.
Can we start with this? Can we start with this issue that there were no questions from the media? I think going forward, people have to ask people who are campaigning to be party leaders and people like Patrice Motsepe who are on slates, whether or not they're going to be taking questions from the media when they become president or as they acquire political power, because I don't think that this works. I don't think that this is good or healthy for democracy. And I think that the media treats the president with kid gloves when it comes to this. The president doesn't do regular interviews. He doesn't do regular press briefings. And I think that's a limitation on transparency. That's a limitation on openness. That's a limitation on accountability. You know, there are other ministers who face very serious allegations as things stand right now. Ministers who face very serious condemnation from the public, from the way they've been behaving, from some of their answers in parliament, which have been seen by the public. And the public needs to hear directly from the mouth of the president how he's planning to deal with these issues, if at all, and where his thinking is at this particular moment. Many world leaders regularly take questions. Donald Trump, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, they take questions from the media. Even Putin takes questions from the media. The media needs to push for questions on days like this. President Ramaphosa has responded to questions in the Oval Office. He responded to questions from the media. He responds when he's in the UK, when he's in Europe and overseas. So why not give the South African media that same fair treatment and that same level of accountability and transparency? He may not like it, but I think it's important. And I just always wonder why there's never pushback for this particular element, because today would have been one of those days when people would have had a lot of questions, wanting to get answers, wanting to get clarity. So let's talk about the Commission of Inquiry quickly. A Commission of Inquiry is an official body established by the President to investigate and report on specific matters of public concern. Its primary function is to act as a fact-finding mission, not to determine legal rights or issue binding judgments. How does it differ from a normal court of law? The main differences between a commission and a court of law lie in what they aim to achieve and what can be done with the findings. Court matters are adversarial. There's a presiding officer, either a magistrate or a judge, who hears the evidence from both parties who are on opposing side, makes a ruling that has a binding effect on one of the parties. There are legal consequences that may affect one or both of the parties' legal rights, right? Commissions, on the other hand, have more of the character of a fact-finding mission for the person who is setting up the inquiry, which is most frequently the president, although premiers can do it. They're inquisitorial. A commission is limited to investigating specific matters which are contained in its own regulation and its own frameworks and the own parameters that are stipulated. And these are the terms of reference which are set out when the commission is set up, the terms of reference. So it's a narrower scope, no binding outcomes, and as you could tell, there are recommendations that are going to be made, etc. But the commission in and of itself doesn't have those type of binding outcomes. So it's not as robust as other interventions which could be implemented. So that's just something that we need to get out of the way. So the president announced that there will be a report after 3 months, a preliminary report, which will basically be saying something like the commission has now been set up and is ready to go. And then there'll be another report after 6 months, and there'll be a final report much later. This is better than nothing. It's better than zero. So General Mkhwanazi, I think, needs applaud. The president needs applaud for at least doing this. It's better than nothing. It's better than zero. And those facts will still at least come out and be ventilated. There are many questions which we have, one of which is, who is Brown Mokgotsi? For instance, that would be one of the first people that I would call to that commission of inquiry. On day one, Brown Mokgotsi, you have to come and explain. You have to provide your phone. You have to provide a lot of information so that we can see what are the connections. And it's prima facie evidence that they're going to be looking at, which is face value. It's still rebuttable, but if it doesn't have rebuttal that is presented, you can take it as standing up until that point where it's examined later more fully. So it's some level of evidence, right? It's not nothing. It's not gossip. It's not conjecture per se. There has to be some level of corroboration for that. But I think, this is not necessarily enough. I think this is not necessarily enough. In as much as I've said we need to clap hands, it's something. Something is better than nothing always. But is it enough? Let's talk and think about the last big commission, the Zondo Commission, which is officially known as the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud in the public sector. When we think about that commission, the Zondo Commission, over the last few years, we've seen multiple scandals indicating that corruption and fraud are still ongoing in the public sector. COVID-19 funds were looted. We saw, digital vibes. We saw these motorbike ambulances that were being launched in the Eastern Cape. We've seen a whole lot happening. The corruption in Tembisa Hospital, which led to the killing of Babita Deokaran, who actually tried to blow the whistle. We've seen more horse carry fathers emerge over the last few years with their horse carry mamas. We even saw one in prison undergoing trial just now. And did you see what I was talking about with the horse carry mamas? Point I'm making is that in as much as the commission was set up, nothing has changed on the ground. People are still feeling the pain of corruption that has taken away funds that were meant to go to projects that were meant to help them. People are still feeling the pain of lack of service delivery. People are still seeing all of these characters who continue to buy lavish cars and lavish homes and pursue young women in nightclubs, etc., who are operating within the tender ecosystem, right? That is still ongoing. After all of that money, the Zondo Commission cost 1 billion rands. It took over 3 years. The report was very late. Zondo kept pushing for extensions. He got a promotion, but nothing changed in the context of corruption, fraud in the public sector. Nothing changed. Many of the characters are still operational, free. They are still doing business with the state. And I think they even go to bed laughing about the ineffectiveness of the whole thing. And the other side of the equation is that some serious issues that were raised were ignored and overlooked because they were not being raised by people who were deemed to be the right people. So anything that is said by Brian Molefe, anything that is said by anybody who's not who's on the naughty list, so to speak, that is disregarded, that is put aside. And some of those concerns that they raised then emerged to have had some validity. Concerns about the operations of IPPs, concerns about some of the evergreen contracts that were being given by Eskom. These were not necessarily illegitimate. That whole thing of saying if somebody says in a fact-finding mission a certain set of things, if they're not on the right list, then their contributions are overlooked or minimized. I think that's something that the public is very well aware of. And I think in this instance, it would have been better, to re-establish the Political Killings Task Force, give it a full national mandate, because those political killings are linked to some of the activities that are happening in the criminal underworld and in the political world in South Africa, because politicians are killing each other over tenders. They're not killing each other over just a position. It's not about who's chairman of the branch. It's not about who is, the councillor who got in. No, it's about what was the bid that was granted by the municipal manager. The fights that we are seeing are as a result of a contestation of resources. So you can actually peel a lot of layers and expose the rot by actually re-establishing that Political Killings Task Force, making it national, making sure it has a fully funded mandate. Give it a mandate to deal with the issues of criminal syndicates. I often joke that we need a Department of Hoshkari Behavior, so an HKB investigative unit to look at the lifestyles of some of these slay queens, the lifestyles of some of these yellow bones with yellow thighs who are seen all over gallivanting, buying cars on a monthly basis. Who does that with legitimate money? Even the wives of these billionaire business people don't buy cars on a daily basis, monthly basis, because legitimate money is not just thrown down the drain like that. I often joke that would be necessary and effective, and I think it would be. If you saw what was happening with Vusimuzi Matlala there in the court, with his Hosh Karimama there, they were rocking Gucci, looking all sushi in the Gucci. But that's money that's coming from the proceeds of corruption. Anyway, more seriously, I think that political killings task force that Mkhwanazi was speaking about was very effective. It wasn't dissolved for nothing. I think it was dissolved for the reasons that he articulated. And Brown Mkhwanazi has to explain and account. And the fact that they didn't re-establish it, fully equip it, for me, it's a missed opportunity. General Mkhwanazi right now has the trust of the people. He has the experience. He has the appetite to see this to the end. Do we really need to spend R1 billion or another set of money? So there's going to be some amount of money spent on the commission, some amount of money spent on a national dialogue. Mkhwanazi has done the national dialogue. Mkhwanazi has investigated these issues. Give him ammunition to take that car all the way to the destination. The Uber cannot be stuck on the side of the road. Give it petrol. Let Mkhwanazi finish the job. I don't think that it's necessary to spend R1 billion on a commission that will not necessarily lead to direct and timely interventions, and still will have to rely on recommendations and the political will of other people. As things stand, there are multiple criticisms of the Zondo Commission and the fact that many of the people who are implicated, who are still operational, still influential in parliament, in businesses. Some companies just paid back some of the money. They're still operational. Business leaders were not held accountable in any meaningful way for what they did. They just said, whoops, here's the money back that we got from this particular deal. Let's see what we can do later. And then they contributed to the president's project management office, and all of a sudden they are walking around talking about corruption and PE. Some of you were part of it. Some of those consulting firms, you were part of it. The very same corruption that you go and grandstand against right now, you were involved in that. And now you walk around acting like you are, blue cheese or something like that. Man, it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing that was the reality. There's value from a commission of inquiry in terms of getting some of the facts on the board. But it creates layers between the report and real accountability. The NPA still has to charge that person. The relevant minister still has to dismiss the implicated police officer or administrative person. There still needs to be political will from the new president. This could be completed well after 2029. And the change in political environment could lead to a loss of appetite. How willing would Gayden McKenzie be to deal with these issues? For example, if he becomes the next president in a coalition deal, is he going to go after the 26s and all of these other gangs? Or is he not going to pursue the recommendations? I don't know. And I don't think that leaving it, so it's almost like passing the buck, buying time. It's a delaying tactic, I think, when the public is hungry for real action. So the Minister of Police has also been placed on leave, and there's going to be a new minister in August. Right? You saw that, and it's part of the announcement. So let's talk about it briefly. I don't think that he's coming back to that role, to be quite honest. I think the president had to give Senzo Mchunu some face-saving room, perhaps, to prevent fallout from his supporters in KZN. And, and that's probably why he also chose somebody outside of the political environment and not necessarily an active politician or even an active policeman. To be quite honest with you, you know what would have been great? Imagine if this had been the announcement. President comes there, my fellow South Africans, I don't have a Ramaphosa voice. Then he says, I'm announcing General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as the new Minister of Police. Boom! Oh, the crowd goes wild. The podcasters are rushing to get the microphones. Oh my gosh! Crime is coming to an end. Criminals are booking flights. Kalula.com. There's no more Kalula.com. They're on Delta. They're on SAA. They're on Ethiopian Airlines. One day they're trying to get out of here immediately. All the Tamil besters are praying their best prayers. Lord, forgive me, for Mkhwanazi is coming for me. That would have been something spectacular. Something that would have cemented President Ramaphosa's legacy as somebody who really busts the nuts of crime. But we just get this. We get this. Going back to Mchunu, I think his political aspiration to be vice president of the ANC and potentially vice president of South Africa and maybe future president, it's been ended by this scandal. He was on some of the posters with Patrice Motsepe as the potential deputy presidential candidate, bringing in KZN votes, and I think that's over now. I don't think Patrice wants to touch this with the R1 billion. I don't think he wants to touch this with a 9-foot pole. I don't think he wants to go anywhere in this respect. I think that Msandawana is down and it's not coming back up, right? this is done. Patrice will fire people at the blink of an eye if they don't deliver, and this is too salacious for him to even consider going anywhere with this dude. So I think that's over. I think that the minister was not honest with Parliament, and that I think is serious enough for him to not have been placed on leave for something more significant to be done. He said he didn't know Brown Mkhwanazi. Then he came back and said, he's just a friend. He said he's just a friend. Oh, fellow, how is that even possible? First, you don't know him. Now he's your comrade, but not your associate. How are we doing these things? This is what Tupac was talking about in his song, Mzansi Don't Cry. South Africa is a movie, a drama, a series. We never know what's going to happen. One guy can come one day and say, I don't know this guy. Next week he comes and says, wait. Maybe I know him a little bit. Maybe, but not like that. I don't know him like that. I know him as a comrade, but not an associate. So what happens next? He's going to be a partner, but not an associate. He's going to be, because, I'm thinking law firm terms now, because you got associate, you got partner, you got candidate attorney. What is he, dude? What is he? We don't know. I think that misleading of Parliament was significant. And because it's linked to other allegations, I really think that the president should have removed him totally. Although I do think he's done that without saying that he's done that. There's also some thinking that there was some thinking and some speculation in the media. I also thought maybe he'll do it because he told, the minister of bubblegum and Ask Google there that she can't go to China and should not go to China. But it looks like she will chew more bubblegum for days to come. And, from the way Fikile Mbalula spoke about Nobuhle Nkabane, it seemed as if Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, that he was defending her and that the ANC is going to, keep their gunpowder dry in respect to her. But I think that was also a mistake. I think the president could have come out today and said, Nobuhle Nkabane benched, benching as well Senzo Mchunu, and maybe a third person. There's another minister there who's been accused, Thembisi Melane with the VBS. That! Make Mkhwanazi Minister of Police. Boom, boom, boom. Those three ministers. What? President Ramaphosa, the next Mandela, the real Mandela, the better than Mbeki. The praise would have been loud. Now, it's going to be more of the same. No, the president is calculating, etc., etc. The president is patient. We must test the allegations. Was this enough? I don't think so. And let's remember what the problem really is. The problem, clearly articulated, is that gangsters and Hosh Carifathers have embedded themselves in the political networks and the policing networks such that investigations of murder and corruption in South Africa are being interfered with, and such that they are operating with impunity. The outcome of that is that there's a high murder rate in South Africa. There's a high rate of violent crime in South Africa. The public has experienced and witnessed either the violence of these gangs or the impacts of their activities. Nobody is unscathed. People are paying lots of money for private security. Those who can't afford it, they buy, these dogs, the pit bulls and all of that because they're scared. Something, because there's a frustration. The public lives in constant fear for their lives. And sometimes you can feel the difference when you go to another country. You go overseas. These guys don't even have fences in some other countries. Wow, no fence. People are just sleeping. People are just sleeping. You go to other countries, Botswana, Tanzania, there aren't these types of concerns about crime. This is something that is definitely something that makes South Africa unique in that the interventions to stop these syndicates and violent criminals have been nowhere near enough. The public lives in constant fear for their lives and property. The only people, ironically, who sleep soundly at night are the politicians and the criminal. The criminal knows when he goes to sleep that, he's off duty now, so he's safe. The politicians know that they've got all the blue lights, so they're safe. But even that safety is not that safe because Paul Mashatile was saying that, he was being shot at coming out of that Alex conference or meeting that he was part of. So as things stand, I do not think that there's any panic on the WhatsApp groups of the gangsters. I don't think there's any panic on the Hosh Karimama Daddy WhatsApp groups there. I don't think the Hosh Daddies are panicking right now. I don't think there's an emergency meeting. I don't think the WhatsApp networks or Telegram, whatever they're using. I think they were panicking last week. Last week, I think everything was happening. But tonight, I think they'll sleep. They'll probably have a glass of wine, hug their Hosh Karimama there, and go to sleep. So this Sunday, I think it was a potato salad Sunday. We moved from the fiesta Sunday to potato salad Sunday. It's a decent enough salad. You can eat it, but nobody ever looks forward to a potato salad. Nobody ever does. And this was safe potato salad. The problems continue to fester under the surface. That's my view. I don't know what you think. Let's have a conversation. What did you make of the announcement? Let me meet you in the comment section. I tried to move as quick as I can, guys, to give you this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's meet in the comments.